This podcast is intended for adults only. We do not condone the use of any illegal substances, and anything we consume is for educational purposes only.
Because, we should be afraid of a plant that grows from the ground. And, endocannabinoid system is, it's in your body and it produces cannabinoids. I mean, you know what? I'm going to stop because I'm going to rant. Just play the music, Mitch.
Cause I got drive. First two, I drove 6 states, never thought I'd be there right by my side. Man, what a time it is to be alive. See, I'm charged up, feeling energized, build an enterprise, move supersize. Y'all extra like a side of fries. Whoa, false guys who you idolize. Yeah, go against us, I would not advise. We the highest in the room, just look up once and you can find us. Our songs should have more plays, but we too, though, they rewind us. All my talk is lined.
What's up, guys? You're listening to the Canna podcast, where we are cultivating conversations concerning cannabis, culture, and creativity. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Mitch Narito.
And I am Erick Esteban. And I have officially harvested cannabis every month of this month.
Of this year?
Of this year. And we obviously sampled it. No, but yeah, I've officially, I wanted to set up that perpetual when I started growing last year, and I harvested in January, February, March, April, May, and June. And now we're resetting, and I just put some new autoflower seeds, which we can talk about later, into the ground, some regular autoflower seeds. So I might have some feminine plants and I might have some male plants, and we're going to figure out what to do with them once we get them. But that was, I think, the one distinction when we were talking about seeds last time, last episode, that we didn't mention. Because there are autoflower seeds that are not feminized autoflower seeds, which means in that pack you could get female plants or male plants, just like the regular seeds.
If you get both male and female, are you going to keep the males around? Because isn't there a thing where if you have a male plant around, the females will get bigger to try to...
That was the thing that I heard on DJ Clue. On shout out to Dude Grows show, the Dude Grows show. They had DJ Clue on, and he mentioned that when the female plant is allowed to be by and can sense the presence of a male plant, they tend to
get bigger,
live out their fullest life. You know what I'm saying? Because that's their whole idea, is to procreate, right? And to get the pollen. So the bigger and stickier the buds on the female's part, the more pollen that she's going to absorb and get from the male plants. So you would think, even just from a natural, organic kind of natural survival of the fittest way of thinking, that would be a thing that I would guess happens.
Are you going to try it out, or is that like too much of a mess? Because I know
we'll see.
You might have pollen everywhere, right?
That's part of that's part of like the whole thing about growing, is it's kind of an experiment every single time. That's even in the case of like the Gelato 33. The trip and yield, like from 4 plants, because I cut the 2 small plants down a little early and just got about like maybe 10 grams from that. But the 4 plants, 2 medium-sized plants and the 2 larger plants, I ended up getting like 70 total grams. 2 big jars of weed from the Gelato 33, the final harvest, the June harvest. And then you got to remember that the original mother plant, she gave me 78 grams by herself with 1 plant. Now, it was a bigger pot, 15-gallon pot, and longer veg time. So what does that tell me? Again, like I was saying at the beginning, all growing is an experiment. So a lot of the videos that I watched about veg talk about 6 weeks of veg.
Does having a plant get pollinated change anything? Like,
yeah, you get seeds on the buds that get pollen on them. That's the point. And then I would have regular seeds again, and I would have an endless amount of regular cannabis seeds. But then, for me, part of why I'm gonna get some feminized seeds is because I like to get people to start growing, and part of getting them to start growing, like, it sucked because I put those lion's claw seeds for Christmas presents, and I put them in pots and gave them to some people for Christmas presents, and then they grew them out and they turned out to be dudes.
No.
And so that part of it kind of sucked. But at the same time, now that I'm, going forward, we're going to figure out, I'm going to get some feminized seeds, and then those you put them in, boom, you're always going to get the kind of weed and bud that you want, because those are feminine plants. And that to me is the best entry level seed to buy, is the feminine seed, because then you kind of learn the full life cycle of the plant, rather than an autoflower seed where you put it in and then you kind of almost don't know what you're going to get. Like, even all these autoflower seeds that I'm putting in now, I don't know if they're going to be male or female. And in the case of these specific lion's claw from Equilibrium, I had to flip the lights because they kept vegging and vegging and vegging. Remember how tall they were?
Yeah.
They kept vegging, they kept stretching, but they never went to flower, so they never auto-flowered. So I don't know really yet what I'm going to get out of these. So these are almost like just planting regular seeds.
So how long until you actually have an idea?
Well, I planted them on June 1st, and they haven't yet broke ground yet. So once they pop ground, that'll be day one, and then I'll know. I'll let them grow in those small pots for about 3 weeks. Let them grow out, and then up pot them to smaller 1 gallon pots, because I feel like why the other plants got so big was because they were in bigger pots. They were in 7 gallon pots, so they had more room to grow, and they never. Part of what a lot of people say about growing autoflower plants is once the roots hit the bottom of the pot, then they start to flower. That's kind of their trigger almost, or once the roots have kind of hit their space where they can't reach, they can't stretch anymore, that's when they know to start flowering almost.
That makes sense, though.
It kind of does make sense. And so I figure if I put them in smaller pots rather than the bigger pots that I had originally planted the lion's claw in, that they may switch to autoflower faster,
Are you going to experiment with pot sizes? Small pots?
I'm going to do right now I'm in the seedling pot size, which is very small. It's like maybe a cup or two, like it's almost like a coffee cup size for just the seedlings. And I'll let them grow for a little while till maybe 2 or 3 tiers of leaves, and then I'll up pot those to 1 gallon pots. And then for these particular lion's claw, I'm going to let those stay.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, you're gonna put them in the 1 gallon pots, but are you gonna try experimenting with like a 1 gallon pot as opposed to like maybe a bigger pot to see like?
No, not for these, because I don't know what I'm going to get, and I don't want to worry about putting a male in a bigger pot and devoting more nutrients and more resources to the male. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what I'm getting, so I'm just going to keep them all standard 1 gallon pots for their whole duration of their lives, and just grow them out in those 1 gallon pots and see how big they get. And see, because I have a whole bunch of plastic disposable 1 gallon pot things that I bought at the beginning that I kind of want to just get rid of, but I don't want to get rid of them and not use them. So I'm just going to just use them and see how these 1 gallons go with these. This is all the leftovers of the past year and a half of growing. All the leftover autoflower seeds that I didn't grow throughout the season, and some of the leftover supplies, and as far as the pots. But I'm using everything so that I can kind of use everything.
This may be a dumb question, but for seeds, is there like a shelf life to seeds, or is it as long as you store them properly, you can use them?
As long as you store them properly, you can basically. I mean, I don't know that there aren't enough studies done yet on cannabis seeds, to be honest. But then you can talk to some OGs, and I've listened to some podcasts where OGs talk about how they've had seeds for 10, 20 years. We can. I just want to. That snapping noise was because I was telling my dog to stop licking his butt, because we can hear that in the background, and I just wanted to be sure that if you heard that in the background, yes, that was a dog licking that's Disco. So
it's not me, guys. It's not.
It wasn't Mitch.
Yeah, sorry. as talented as I am,
and as flexible as you are,
definitely.
So let's get into it. I just harvested, right? I just did the trim. I'm really starting to enjoy. I like trimming. They talk about how it's trim jail, or people don't like to trim the plants, and yes, there's obviously people who are trimming 20 plants versus my 4 plants. I'm sure there's a lot of different to the labor of it, but I enjoy it, and I'm obviously going on year 2 of growing.
Yeah, you're enjoying the fruits of your labor.
I love it so much, and it's also really cool to see the process, and because at the end of the day, the most important part of growing your own is the drying process.
Okay. So before we get to that,
yeah, I know. But seeing the end result of a good dry and what I was doing when I was trimming, it's really satisfying.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
let's talk about trimming. Okay, so when you're trimming, after you've cut your plants, you cut your plants. Is that
I dry them whole. So I cut them down from the trunk from the original stalk, and then I hang them whole plant, and then I let them dry. And in the climate, and I've had to adjust it as the temperature.
Yeah, it's getting hotter out here.
It's getting hotter. So in September, one of my first harvests or second harvests, the first harvest of Gelato, right? That one, or was it September? Maybe October or December.
Yeah, it was
December. It was December. So in that first harvest, it took 14 days to dry that because it was so cold, and the atmosphere was probably 50 degrees the whole time. The next time we harvested Gelato, it took 7 days to dry. This week it took 5 days to dry. So because it's so hot.
Yeah, it's
and
about
because there's like a sustained
today?
There's a sustained heat part of the day, like the middle part of the day where it's really hot in where I dry, that and then it goes back down, and the average temperature is about 70 degrees. They want it to be like 60, but my average is about 50, 70 when it's that hot in there. So there's only so much you can do, but the ideal is in the wintertime when I harvest for like November, December. Those are the ideal temperatures for my environment.
You mentioned you cut the trunks. What do you do with the roots?
Oh, I just pull them out.
You just pull them out and then
I pull them out,
compost them.
Yeah, and then that's when hygrozyme and all of the hygrozyme products come into play, because they enhance your root zone, because they clean your roots, and they're enzymatic products that are organic, and they naturally clean the soil and clean the roots, but they also clean and eat the dead root material inside the soil and turn it into nutrients and different things. I'm bastardizing the scientific processes of the enzymes, and as far as what they do, and as far as hygrozyme goes, but that's where that part of my regimen, and as far as like some of the different nutrients and fertilizers, and we can get into that stuff even later on, but the trimming process for me was very month to month it's crazy, because the different plants average different. Like the mint jelly, I think, was one of the best harvest per plant. I think it was like 40 to 50 grams per plant, and it was like two jars, or at least a jar and a half for each plant, and then that third plant gave me 2 jars of full weed. Right?
How are you trimming it exactly? Just for people that are new to this.
Sure.
Like, what exactly are you doing? So you've dried the plant.
So I've hung it whole plant, basically. I maybe removed some of the bigger bottom fan leaves, or maybe some of the dead leaves, if there's some dead leaves on the bottom portion of the plant. But for the most part, I don't trim anything when it's still alive, still wet. You know what I mean? Like still, because there's always a debate of wet trimming versus dry trimming. I would never even think to ever wet trim. It's too messy, and it's also, I wouldn't do it. But for me, dry trimming is so much easier than wet trimming, because once you've dried it, and you've dried it sufficiently to your environment, whether it's a 10-day dry because it's cold, or or whether it's a 5-day dry because it's so dry in your climate. Let's see, is it? Yeah, it's picking it up. So hold on. That was a plane because I live by Burbank Airport. We're gonna leave that in, but I'm just saying that I didn't want to keep talking over a plane. No, but you can. Where was I again?
No, we're talking about just trimming.
Yeah, but when you're dry trimming, when it's dry and it's dry, like I said, it was dry to your environment, and it's perfect, and it's already dry and it's crisp, you can almost just like
flick it
brush off the fan leaves, and everything just falls off, and then there's your beautiful bud, and it's right there.
Do you ever maintain, like, when the plant is still alive? Do you ever have to trim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do that. I don't do. I used to when I was first starting to grow, I would do lollipop and cut down all the bottom portion of it and all this other stuff. But I have enough circulation of air where I don't do that, and I also just the way that I've kind of figured out the way that I have my plants situated. The only time I ever cut fan leaves is when they're bigger, because they're blocking other sites of, like during flower. If like there's a fan leaf that's blocking another flower site, I'm going to cut that leaf off so that leaf that bud site is not shaded.
Yeah, so it has room to grow.
Correct.
Okay.
But as far as like trimming leaves during the veg cycle, when all they're doing is producing leaves and stems, I just let them grow. And in fact, I try to train them so that they grow bigger and wider, because you don't want them to grow straight up. You want them, of course, depending on like these autoflowers in the 1-gallon pots, I'm not going to do anything to them. I'm just going to let them grow. You know what I'm saying? But for, say, for instance, the 7-gallon pots for the feminized seeds that I buy, I'm going to train those. I'm going to train it so that all the different, and you can listen to the Bud Trainer podcast to get into a more in-depth description of low stress training, because I can get into it here, but we could go all day.
No, yeah, I've seen like a bunch of stuff for that. Like I know that they sell specific tools that will shape the plant to certain shapes.
It's almost like bonsaiing the tree to grow the way that you want it to grow.
Okay.
But for me, again, it always depends on the style, and also depends on your plant count. Also depends on a whole bunch of different things. But for me right now, I'm going to have the autoflower seeds are going. I'm going to probably pick up some feminized seeds sometime in June and figure that out. And then we're going to have a seed to harvest video that we're going to upload to YouTube and a whole bunch of other places. We'll have the first Canna Kuyas seed to harvest video, but that will be a 4-month long in the making ordeal, because you've got a seed.
Well, just time lapse. It's gonna just be a lot of time lapse. I know.
There'll be some time lapse, but also a lot of different. I'd love to break down how I plant my seeds, because there's the paper towel method. There's there's straight to soil. There's a lot of different soaked in the water. There's so many different myths and different processes and ways and methods of how to plant your seeds. So we could do a video just on planting seeds, and we could do just a video on the veg cycle and how it grows and how to fertilize and do that. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've learned in the past couple of years that now I think I think we're ready to do seed to harvest videos, and that's why I'm excited about the whole process that's coming in the summer months and the upcoming episodes to come.
It's been, you said it's been a year and a half since you started growing?
A little bit more than a year and a half now, yeah. Probably like this time last year I started.
In terms of, okay, like where you are now versus where you are when you first started, what would you tell yourself? Like if you were going to start a new grow, like what area or what piece of advice would you give yourself as a brand new grower? If like knowing what you know now versus what you knew back then, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would be able to give yourself?
The biology of the soil and adding bacteria, lactobacillic acid, and the Korean natural farming methods and all the different things that I've been learning in that way. If I'd have known all that stuff from jump, like say I knew it from gardening, I probably would have saved a lot of money.
In what sense?
I wouldn't have bought as many different nutrient bottles and different, there's a few. If you go in the garage, you'll see there's probably like 5 or 6 bottles of things that I was supposed to have.
But you didn't need it?
And yeah, I didn't need it. Or if I should have just ended up, buying what I did do, and I bought the whole line of Ventana Plant Science. So for any kind of multivitamins for the plants that I have, as far as chemically speaking, and synthetically speaking, chemicals that synthetic nutrients, that's where I get it, is from Ventana Plant Science. And even that I only use as multivitamins. So I think if there was anything that I could tell, like if now 2 years, basically hindsight, to speak to the guy who was first starting out and ordering a tent and a couple of fans, the first thing I would tell him is, don't buy all the nutrients and don't believe all the things that you read about all the different things that are going to enhance this or enhance that. Understand the biology of the soil and understand, how to fertilize the soil with organic materials, because it's only going to be easier for you, because then you can reuse your soil, you can save it, you keep reusing all the different, you just end up, you learn how to save money and cut corners where you can cut corners, and then spend money where you need to spend money.
How do you know when your soil is done? Is it just like whitish? Is it just like...
You can get a soil test, but for me, I'm just going to kind of rely on, I still have a lot of Gaia Green. That's my organic. I use Gaia Green, I use the standard 444, and then for flower, there's a Power Bloom mix, and they're all pre-mixed with all different. I could read all the different ingredients, but I use Gaia Green, same as Mr. Canucks on YouTube, and
because my question is like, okay, let's say that like you had soil that wasn't as fertile or it wasn't as good.
You could do a soil test.
No, but like, let's say you didn't know that. Like, you were just reusing soil just to reuse it because you had it already,
sure.
Right? How would you know if it wasn't good anymore? Like, just stuff wouldn't grow, or it just wouldn't grow as strong?
You could tell from the plants, because the plants will still grow. It'll just, so if soil isn't as nutrient rich, you're going to see deficiencies in your plant. You're going to see yellowing leaves. You're going to see, browning leaves. You're going to see not as big plants.
But then can't you just add the nutrients?
But exactly. That's all you have to do. It's just once the soil, if you're for instance, like I'm doing that. I did that just recently because I reset all my pots, right? I pulled all the roots out that I could, and then I added Gaia Green, added some worm castings, added some Power Bloom, mixed it up, added some more, added some Earth Shine, which is like Terra Preta, which is like a mix of different charcoals and different things from Green Grow, which is it's almost like a duplication of the Amazon rainforest in as far as like the mix of organic nutrients. And then, so I put all that into the Gaia Green, all that stuff, and I mixed that into the pots, and it's done me well the past, however many cycles now. And then you also want to kind of let it rest, because part of the reason I was getting fungus gnats was because
there's too much
overwatered, too much in it, doing too much stuff. Now it's all dried out. The dry amendments are back in there, and then now all I got to do is put plants and water in that bit, and it's ready to go.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to ask. I was like if you're using the same soil, do the nutrients, do they compound, or is it kind of like once they're used up, and then you just
they do tend to get used up. That's part of why that's where you want to invest your money in, is in a fertilizer that you trust, whether it's organic and or synthetic, whatever your preference. But you want to invest in that for sure, because because whether you're growing in cocoa, or you're growing in soil, or even if you're growing in hydro, you're still going to need nutrients. And in the case of hydro and cocoa, you're going to need nutrients even more than you would in soil. So for me, if like, again, I go back to studying and understanding the microbiology of soil, and what was the word? What was a book that I first read? Teeming with Microbes by Jeff Lowenthal. Like that book right there. When it shows all the different microorganisms that live in the soil and how it interacts with the roots and the systems in the plants, regardless of what plant it is, cannabis plant or tomato plant. But the biology of the soil, and once you understand the biology of the soil and how to enhance that, and when it's depleted, and or enhance that in ways that will boost your soil versus some other guys' soil, like with hygrozyme and with all these different other, like the mammoth pea microbes that I use, which is each different microbe formulation that I have increases the biodiversity of the soil, and which in turn increases the nutrient uptake for the plants, because you need those microorganisms to interact with the nutrients in the soil to interact with the nutrients in the plants to the roots, and then that's how the plants grow big and strong.
Like, I don't know if your space would allow this, but I remember when we went to go visit Living Farms and they had living soil. Is that something that's possible for you, or is that like on the scale
I'm basically in the realm of living soil right now, because when I do cut the leaves, I do chop them and put them onto the ground and let the organisms that I've already put into the soil eat those, because that's food for them. Yeah. So and then they do that, and then guess what? It's the same nutrient cycle, because then you're like, it's what I did with the asparagus outside, because the asparagus grass was getting so high, so I trimmed the top portion and then I put that all on the ground. And so that it'll die and dry, but it also there's some seeds in there, so there'll be more asparagus to pop in there. But also, it just enhances the soil, because that's the natural process. That's what happens in nature.
Circle of life.
I mean but even with Living Farms, where they had the cannabis leaves that were on the ground, on the top portion of the soil. Also, what it does is it keeps and retains the moisture and the temperature of the soil low too, because serves as like a mulch.
Okay.
For you're not having to water as much, and a lot of people talk about the leaf level temperature of your plants, but the main temperature where your plants are going to die is if your soil gets too hot and it's too dry. So you always want to keep that moist and dry, moist and cool.
At this point in your growing journey, what has been the biggest challenge? What has given you the most difficulty?
The environment that I grow in, because I grow outside in the patio, so it's kind of a hybrid indoor-outdoor grow. So I'm still dealing with the outdoor weather in a lot of sense. So that's been the biggest challenge. But it's not even a challenge. It's almost better for me, because then I grow with the seasons.
Okay.
That's why I'm not taking June off, but I'm taking June, the hottest month, once it starts to get hot, to reset, so that I'll have July and August to veg these plants out and get them as big as possible.
I don't know, man. I feel like we're going to get a late summer. Like, it's starting to get hot already, but I feel like it's not going to get like ridiculously hot.
No, I don't think it's going to, and that's going to be all the better, because it's when it gets like that, those first few grows, part of the learning process of growing was realizing that you needed cooler temperatures for the flower process. So I was trying to grow the case of my first grow. Remember when you said, "Man, this shit was so dry"? Remember that very first grow that I had? Okay, oh, it's so dry and it tastes weird. Well, because it was fucking 100 degrees when I was flowering those things, and the buds didn't grow very big because it was too hot. It was just too hot in there, and so. Again, that if you want, that's the biggest challenge, but it's also been the biggest challenge from jump, but it's also been a part of the learning curve. So it's allowed me to learn, So it's not you might even buy the air conditioner that I bought for this thing, that it kept blowing my fuse. So I invested a lot of money and bought a lot of things that I thought were going to fix the problem, when in fact all I really needed to do was learn how to grow in that environment.
Okay, and then moving forward, like, what do you feel is something that you can get better at, or something you want to improve upon?
I want to figure out how to get more harvest,
just higher yield.
Yeah, that's it. I think probably because I grew from clone the past two harvests, I haven't really gotten big yields. But I don't know that that's necessarily because I grew from clone. I think it's because I didn't veg them out long enough. I only vegged them for 5 weeks, and in one case, I think the first round of clones, I only vegged them for like a month. So for 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks at the most. And,
is there like a significant difference between growing, like, let's say from like mother plants versus clones? Like, is there any actual evidence where like it's either you get less or you get more either way?
No, I think again it is more of how you end up vegging them out, because that's the importance of the veg cycle. You know, if you grow them out and then you flip them to flower right away, you're going to get a smaller yield because you're going to have a smaller plant, period. There's less plant area because you haven't vegged them for long enough. So they haven't been able to build those stems and those branches and those leaves to stretch all the way up. You know, even in the case of a bushy indica where you want it to be small and like a bush, or even those taller sativas, you have to give them time for that stuff. You can't, I think too many people rely on this, especially with growers that I watch, they rely on the stretch during flower. And I think that if you know what you're doing and you've already vegged them out, or if you know, or you have great genetics, then maybe you're good. But for me, I think this next round of growing, I really want to concentrate on maximizing my space, my environment, and then so that's for me that now the only real choice is what genetics do I choose.
How far are you from like being able to mix genetics or like make hybrids? By
December of by next year, my goal is for by the beginning of my third year of growing, we're gonna have our own strain.
You'd be able to make your own. You'd be able to like cherry pick. So
either cherry pick or well, that's part of why I wanted to buy Jedi cookies and strawberry cough, and or figure out a Skywalker OG. Maybe a grape ape, because those are our two favorites, right?
You can make a Jedi cough.
Jedi cough would be a trip, or like a grape ape, I don't want to, because I like the name and I haven't seen the name yet, and so I'm not going to say what the name is that I'm thinking about. But if we could cross Skywalker OG and grape ape, our two favorite strains, and that's the Canna Kuyas strain, bro, that'd be pretty darn cool. And that's a goal of mine, actually, is in as far as growing is to end up having at least our own strain that we can smoke. That's our favorites. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's definitely a goal of mine.
Interesting. No, because like it's just the natural progression of things, and
for sure.
Obviously, you're learning and you're starting to be able to manipulate things and have a little more control over everything. Like
that's
by little.
That's part of what to bring it back to the beginning of the conversation. The autoflower, the regular autoflower seeds that we planted, the 12 plants that we planted, they're male and female. I might keep one of them males and one of them females around just to see how it does when they breed, and then make some seeds. And then I'll always have those lion's claw seeds. We'll have at least hundreds and hundreds of lion's claw seeds for our own, because we made them ourselves, and that'd be the first experiment in breeding for sure. So I'm already technically starting experimenting with breeding.
You're at the beginning stages, the infantile stages,
because you're talking about dedicating 3 to 4 months of your life for the life cycle of this plant, whatever plant that you grow. And so I've been trying to maximize out each time that I've grown these plants out. And again, the last 2 cycles have been products of clones. And then the one autoflower plant, the wedding cake, remember? Mm-hmm. That one wedding cake got, I think, close to 30 grams as well. So if you take out the clones... Okay, if you take out the Gelato 33, the 2 subsequent rounds of Gelato 33 clones, which are the smallest yielding grows as far as harvests go, of the 6 harvests this year, I average about 40 grams per plant.
Okay, so you're like almost 2 ounces.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I think that's pretty good. So what I would like to do now is to maybe not double that, but okay, now if it's 40 ounces per plant, then I got to figure out, okay, how do I maximize out these 2x4 tents and this smaller?
I know exactly what Eric wants to do. He just wants to be weed rich so he could give 40 grams to whoever and then keep 40 grams to himself and not have to worry about any weed.
This is true. Well, and man, I mean, listen, there's farmers markets, there's different things too. I mean, I want to be able to grow enough so that I'm just growing enough for my own supply, which is wonderful and great and empowering and awesome, and I'm saving money. But if I can make money doing this, why not? And I'm starting to get good at it. So now it's going to be about increasing my yields and maximizing my yields. And then, if by next year we have our own strain that we can put on the market and it's the Canna Kuya, official Mitch and Eric's favorite strains.
I really think you should get those weed certifications if you can, because then you could become a consultant. Straight up, like you could become a consultant.
All right, well, see, guys, so we're going to set up the Patreon, and if you want to help me get my consultancy license, we're going to have that Patreon set up very soon, because I am serious. We're going to have the Patreon set up, and that's where we're going to be uploading all of the Seed to Harvest videos, because YouTube doesn't allow for us to show the plants, and I don't see the point of they do, but sometimes they age restrict them and you can't monetize them. So the best way to monetize your Seed to Harvest videos is on a Patreon. So we will be, once the Seed to Harvest videos we start shooting them and uploading them, they will be exclusively uploaded to our Patreon. So you'll be able to hear the Canna Kuya podcast here, wherever you're getting your podcast now. But if you're going to want to see the videos, you will please become a Patreon of the Canna Kuyas. And maybe then one day I'll get my cannabis certification and be a consultant, and I can come to your house and set up your grow.
For real, though. No, because I think that's like with the not legalization, but with the rescheduling of things. I think I've always seen like growing your own weed as being like kind of like yes.
Hey, stop drinking.
Sorry. It's just I like to lap up my water.
No, that's my dog lapping up water. You see how loud we need a studio. You see how much we need a Patreon? No, anyway, go ahead.
No. But like, I've always seen like growing your own weed is kind of like it's where I saw like people doing microbrews like back in the day. Like people would be like, oh yeah, I brew my own beer or whatnot, and then you could see like people like there's Brickyard. Brewyard. Sorry,
yeah,
Brewyard.
No,
like.
Bro, I would like to walk before I can fly, but at the same time, that's exactly where I want to go with this.
No, but that's the trajectory I see. Like marijuana become like that. That's what I envision.
And that's why I love the fact that we're the first Filipino American cannabis podcast. We're the first people to talk about it, and we're the first Filipino Americans to talk about growing. We're the first people in this community right now. We're the first Filipinos in this community, which is, to me, I love that we're trailblazing this. Excuse the pun, but I take pride and I'm happy to be here on this journey with you, because this is definitely a thing where all I see in this whole project, this whole podcast, this whole everything, learning how to grow, all of it, the Canna Kuya project that we've kind of put together in episode 20, I see nothing but potential. I see nothing but growth. So again, another pun, I'm sorry.
No, but
it's true.
It's guys, if you've been listening since jump, we truly appreciate you. We're coming up on 6 months. Yeah, dude. Like we've been doing this for 6 months. We've done an episode every week except
for the week when we were in Chicago, and even that one, it was only because the audio was funky. But either way, we hit you with that was the only week we missed. It was because we were out of town on tour doing comedy about the Canna Kuya podcast. So we're doing it, and again, the consistency is key, but also, we're the pioneers of this shit right now. I'm claiming it, man. I'm claiming it. I'm proud of it. We got to own our wins, and and no other podcast will you get in the background a dog licking his booty, if you can hear that.
Yeah.
Disco. Don't nobody want to hear you licking your booty.
You got some freaky ass dogs, fool.
Look, if you could lick your own butthole, you probably would too.
Like I said, I have been able to. It's just I hurt my back.
Okay, well, on that note, we should probably wrap this shit up.
You guys have been listening to the Canna podcast, where we are cultivating conversations concerning cannabis, culture, and creativity. I'm Mitch Narito.
And I am Eric Esteban, cultivating cannabis for you, but primarily just for me right now because I need to up my yields.
Don't forget to like and subscribe on all our platforms. Help us get to the top of that algorithm so people know more about us. Write
a review. This is delicious cannabis banter, guys. And if you've been listening this long, please, again, write a review, and if you send a DM of a screenshot of your review, you will get your choice of one of the Canna t-shirts. I'm going to say it every time at the end of the podcast.
I think what we need to do is we need to just post it on our social media. Just be like, write a review for our podcast. Just straight up just like...
We should shoot a video at the end of this, before you leave today. We'll shoot a little quick video.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right.
Cool. All right, everyone. To all the Canna Kuyas and the marijuana ates, stay lifted.
Yeah.
Stay elevated.
Yeah.
Peace, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I got my hoodie on, now peep the chest as human catalyst. Downtown Chula Vista, on 3rd Ave where I go cop some shit. Fuck a thief, so fuck zoomies. Yeah, they whack ass jacket shit. Yeah, I move too swift, so I striking silence. Fuck the violence, man, check my mileage, cause I got drive. First 2, I drove 6 states, never thought I'd be there right by my side. Man, what a time it is to be alive. See, I'm charged up, feeling energized, do the enterprise, move supersize. Y'all extra like a side of fries. Whoa, false gods who you idolize. Yeah, go against us, I would not advise. We the highest in the room, just look up, boys, and you can find us. Our song should have more plays, but we too though, they rewind us. All my targets lined up, every day my girl get fined up. All my clothes is local, bitch, I really rock designer.
Let's go, gang, highest in the room, yo, we get fucked up. You can count on Trey, can't bring the loud pack. Get us in the stew and that's game over. Western Metal Building, that's a home run. Yeah, keep the up or leave the fuck a Folgers. Little bitch, I made the beat and dropped the full verse. I just hit a steelo, I got dripped up. Package born and raised, bitch, I got dripped up. Y no se compara. Yo estoy con mi pana, se llama Trega, fumando ganja. Estamos con Cali, fumando en Cali, yo sé que traen ganas. Ella me dice, papi, que terminamos la cama. Highest in the room, yeah, we get fucked up. You can count on Trey, can't bring the loud pack. Get us in the stew and that's game over. Western Metal Building, that's a home run.
Yeah, we got hits like Tatis and Machado. Man, we know you're not a leader, cause all our moves you just follow, packing big bowls. You know we just scooped up that gelato, cause I smoke killer. My shirt iller, yo, ask our dealer, we the highest in the room. Just look up, boys, and you can find us. Our song should have more plays, but we too though, they rewind us. All my targets lined up, every day my girl get fined up. All my clothes is local, bitch, I rarely rock designer.